Hello everyone, thank you for taking a chance to check out my video here. I just want to give a quick disclaimer and a few things to mention before diving further into the video here. Just want to quickly mention that in this video is my own personal opinions only. I do not speak for the entirety Destiny 2 community. I just simply ask that everyone in the comment section just simply be respectful to others, no matter if they're agreeing or disagreeing with certain points about Destiny 2. Was kind of complimenting on putting this warning here, but I found the end better be safe than sorry, because you all know the internet these days can be a bit crazy, especially with the current state of the Destiny 2 community with everything going on. But anyway, guys, I do appreciate you guys coming by to check out my video here of my story and opinions, and I hope you enjoy the video. To be honest, guys, I really did not know if I really was going to be making this video. Because I understand it's been a while since I even made it like a commentary video like this, where I just sit down, just talk about my general thoughts and everything. As sometimes, you know, when just talking about your general thoughts about a certain topic can sometimes lead to backlash a lot of times, but you know what? It's just my own personal opinion and thoughts, so I thought I might as well, in spite there's really nothing else to really do at the moment. So this video will just be talking about my personal experience ongoing with Destiny 2 up till now. This video will be separated in parts and marked with timestamps so you can skip at your heart's content. I do understand if many of you come perhaps from my overall state of the game towards the end of the video, but I do recommend you guys hear me out to get some context of what kind of player I am in the world of Destiny 2. The gameplay also in the background is just me experiencing Beyond Light on day 1, which was streamed on twitch.tv/greatbeef97, if anyone is interested in watching my future streams. Just so you know, I most likely probably won't be streaming Destiny 2 as much for reasons explained later in the video, but I appreciate everyone for dropping by whenever I am live. So anyway, guys, moving on to the video finally, Destiny 2. I never thought this would be my main game actually for the next few years, personally. At the current state for me in my personal gaming path, I was getting pretty burnt out of CSGO. After spending 5 years playing CSGO of about 1,500 hours approximately within the game, I was looking forward to a new game to personally learn and grind. I really wanted to find a long-lasting game to which I can spend countless hours grinding, much to learn, that soon being, of course, Destiny 2. I personally never played the original Destiny 1 except the open beta on the Xbox 360. During the beta, I mostly enjoyed the PvP experience throughout my time that I had, but when the game was fully released, I was a bit cheap and I didn't really fully buy it, unfortunately. The other factors also to which I didn't really get fully into Destiny was the fact that next-gen consoles were right around the corner during that time, being of course the Xbox One and PS4, which I would not be able to afford, of course, knowing I'm a bit cheap, and I probably won't be able to get it within the next couple of years. The other fact as well was that I never had any friends, personally on my Xbox 360, who would be playing Destiny 1, and when just playing over all of the beta, I just knew I need to find people to play with, and to be honest, I'm pretty shy when it comes to finding people to play with, so that's kind of just how it started off for me. When I first started with Destiny 2, I didn't purchase it till it was actually like half off, which was about $40 Canadian to be more precise, and I didn't really buy any of the expansions at all. I simply just started with vanilla Destiny, no expansions or anything, just to get a taste to see what it was. So of course I started off with the Wet War campaign, which I enjoyed a bit. I guess I wasn't really expecting like a really good story experience, because I heard some things weren't really good about the story, but I think it was pretty standard. And to be completely honest, at this state of the game, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of just learning as I went, basically. I kind of just wanted to simply just experience the game like for myself, rarely looked at guides on YouTube. And looking back, I think all I did was just public events about 90% of the time, maybe a few strikes. And also when I did unlock some certain weapons, I did some PvP, which I still did enjoy as much as I did back in Destiny 1 beta. So, but of course I wasn't really too confident yet in competitive survival, so I kind of just stayed away from those playlists. After reaching the max rank for Destiny 2 back then, when it did have a max rank before the season pass implementations, I pretty much stopped playing the game. Again, I had no one to really play with. I was just kind of doing my own thing. And after not really having much else to do after Red War campaign, I basically kind of just stopped. I believe back then this would be having the Leviathan raid that was in the game, but of course you needed people to play with. And I remember back then when I was figuring if you could solo the raids, and you can't really do the whole raid solo really, unfortunately, which kind of sucks, but That was just the kind of perspective I was getting out of it when I first bought it. I soon decided to return to Destiny 2, seeing that the 2 current expansions during that time were on sale. So for the first 2 expansions, I mostly just played for the story. I didn't really get back to really getting the included exotics or expansion weapons till the DCV or Destiny Content Vault, which we'll talk about later on. I started off with the oldest to new expansion, which of course had me starting off with Curse of Osiris, then the Warmind expansion, which I'm going to talk about here really quickly. I'm not going to talk about these 2 expansions although too much, mostly because I just played with the story back then and wasn't there when it was just that latest content back then, so I can't really say what the state of the community was or how I was really. So with it also being almost a long time ago, there's almost not much to say besides being a standard story experience really. Destiny 2 was going to be sunset with its previous content, so I thought I might as well get the Wayfarer title. In doing so, it did leave me having to backtrack to the Osiris and Warmind expansions, grinding certain drops in order to unlock the title during that time. For Osiris, personally, I didn't like the way the Lost Prophecy weapons worked and how to acquire them. So just in short, of course, you basically needed to get certain consumables to drop in order to craft these expansion weapons. And not only was it kind of based on RNG, but it was the fact that the weapons only had static rolls and perks, and they weren't random, so you couldn't really get them again, I guess, with different perks. So that was kind of how Destiny 2 was at the state, so I don't really blame that too much. But overall, for the Curse of Osiris expansion, that was just the one thing I just didn't like. When I did go back, I did actually explore the Saint 14 story, but of course after the actual season with Saint 14 returning, so I kind of spoiled myself with what happened, but I still really like the overall side story. So moving forward, next would be the Warmind expansion. I think this expansion was better than Osiris at least. Probably mostly because it does introduce a new public event, exclusives to the new planet, or I guess the remastered planet of Mars, being Escalation Protocol. The problem I still have with these public events these days is the fact you can't find other Guardians to play with, or just do the event with them, to which you basically have to keep reloading the instance over and over again, and hopefully you get with someone. But overall, I was still pretty happy with the drops, especially the Ikilil shotgun that ran with Trench Barrel, which everyone wanted. But to be honest, I really had bad RNG with that, trying to get that shotgun, but I was happy I still got it. So I did eventually, of course, come back to get the exotics such as Sealer Stimulant, which you never know, could get a buff someday, but I don't know, we'll just have to see. Not much to really say for these 2 expansions, as they never really made a mark for me in my Destiny 2 journey personally. I do apologize for any lack of opinions for these 2 expansions though, as it was a long time ago, and sadly right now I can't really replay them considering that right now they are vaulted / sunsetted, so they're no longer in the game as of right now. Now we move on to the elephant in the room, the Forsaken expansion. This is where things began to really take off for me in Destiny 2. Now, thing to keep in mind, I recently did finish the Osiris and Warmind story within the same week, and then was moving on to the Forsaken DLC or story, so I was pretty burnt out almost. Reminder, again, back then, I didn't know what I was doing, I just wanted to learn as I go. I played the Forsaken story for a few missions, then decided to take a break and play some other games. Doing so kind of led me to missing a lot of content actually, which I didn't know of when you actually finish the main story, which I will talk about later. With the announcement of Shadowkeep coming within the next year, I decided to take things seriously for once in Destiny 2, and actually get ready for the upcoming Shadowkeep expansion. This included me starting to actually follow content creators on Twitter, YouTube. With that, I hopped back in story mode first, and I can't say I did enjoy it definitely a bit more better than the Warmind and Osiris. I think I probably felt like the loss, unfortunately, with a close character at the same time really kind of gave us that small boost in purpose to avenging Cade, which probably made the story, I think, a little bit more better. I think some of the side boss fights were good and bad. Some of them I had some positives about, some of them I didn't like, but I'll definitely take it compared to the Osiris and Warmind expansion. After finishing the main story, this again is where things really was a tipping point for me in Destiny 2, in a good way, by the way. The content you unlock after the main story, I was really surprised of how much things that there were actually to do. Compared to Warmind and Osiris, after you finish the main story, there wasn't really much else to do. Maybe some adventures, some side missions for getting exotics, some characters, but then that was pretty much it. I did really love the quest and progression to just unlocking the the Dreaming City destination back then, to which only led to even more things to do. Just a reminder also, back then you did have to unlock the Dreaming City, but now, of course, it's basically unlocked for any new player. What I did like about the Dreaming City was that, or just the Forsaken expansion itself, is that the fact there are just new weapons to unlock with actual random rules, a new public activity called the Blind Well, and a new dungeon known as the Shattered Throne. And to be honest, looking back, I only did the Shattered Throne once with a friend, and it was just for an exotic quest, which is for the Insanagi's burden quest. Please don't shame me. To be honest, I would be playing the Shattered Throne again, but right now, sunsetting, it doesn't seem like it's worth it. But again, I'll talk about that later in my sunsetting opinions in part of the video. At the top of it off, the best, Bungie released probably one of the best raids I think community has really liked. I know it's considered like a highly praised raid from them, the Last Wish raid. Now, you all are probably wondering why I have not mentioned a single raid, and that's because I'm alone. I don't have friends to play with. I know, it's sad. I know there's also LFG discords to which you can look for fire teams, but playing with randoms, especially with Sherpas, not as patient, is not the best experience. Considering raids are really long, maybe sometimes up to 4 hours, 3 hours, it really varies on your fire team and how good your fire team really is. Not saying all Sherpas are bad, by the way. I love a certain Sherpa currently, but some of them aren't the best, and I understand no one's really perfect, so that's just kind of just how it is. I just really believe that raid should be more than just killing enemies or ads, but just learning the mechanics and adapting to certain situations. Alright, let's talk about my first ever raid, that being, of course, the Last Wish raid. To all those watching who don't know what the Last Wish raid is, it's basically the most hardest raid known in Destiny 2. At least from what I've seen in the community and over the social media. Keep in mind, I've never ever done any kind of raid before in a video game or anything similar. I've also never bothered to actually look up any raid guides, mostly because most of them going up to 45 minutes to an hour of explanations, and my brain could not simply really handle that. Of course, with fear of wasting time with really bad randoms and LFG, I never really bothered to find a fire team. That was until on July 27, 2019, around 12 AM at midnight, I had my first ever raid one. I really want to give a shout out here really quickly to two streamers who did actually make this possible, being ClassicQueen, who asked me to slot in with a great Sherpa, EpicDan. Their Twitter and Twitch channels will be linked in the description below, be sure to check them out. I really didn't know what to expect for my first run raid, of course nervous of holding everyone back. Last I remember also, it was just free new runners including myself, and free others whom I've already done a raid or also Sherpas. Then finally, in about 4 hours and 2 minutes, we completed our run, marking my milestone of completing a Destiny 2 raid. I can definitely see why people enjoy these raids, of course after finishing it. Like anything, it's always better with friends or other trusted players like that you've raided with before. For all those wondering as well, for people who've played the Last Wish raid, no, we didn't choose Riven on my first time. We actually did it legit, surprisingly. Unfortunately, at the end of the raid, I wasn't able to get the exotic, being 1000 voices, which kind of sucks, and I still have yet to get it, but I'll probably get it someday. I did soon do future raids, but not as many, as I didn't really want to annoy my limited friends which I had to joining their already full fire teams. Okay, so next moving into the year 2 life cycle for content of Destiny 2. This started off with Bungie's new way to release content through seasons following the release of the Forsaken DLC. Now, like before, I didn't buy the annual pass till it was 50% off like the cheap person I am, and there was about a month left until Shadowkeep. I also bought the pass as due to the fact that I might as well prepare by getting as many exotics just to get ready for the expansion, as you never know, you might need them, and turns out you actually did need them for the next raid that did come afterwards. This for me was really the golden age for me for Destiny 2, and probably as well as for some other people during this time. Mostly because Destiny 2 at this time was just so rewarding with just so many things to do. Now, I won't go into too much detail of each season, but just explaining each things I like or didn't like. When I joined, it was in the middle of Season of Opulence, but of course I could still grind in the previous seasons, Season of the Forge and Season of the Drifter. For Season of the Drifter, the main thing I didn't like, which probably along the rest of the community if I've seen, was Gambit. Now, thing to note, which I have multiple times in this video, I don't have many friends to play with, leading me to kind of just solo everything in Destiny. And of course, Gambit is a bit more enjoyable of a full fire team, and I don't think till this day I've ever played Gambit with anyone else, come to think about it. I guess the main thing I didn't like about Gambit was the invader mechanic, and that being just really overpowered heavy weapons used to when invading. If I had to suggest something, which I understand some people may disagree with, which is completely fine again, is maybe disable invaders from using heavy weapons. I don't know. That's just the one thing that just comes to my mind, really. Besides that, I really loved grinding or spending hours just endlessly just getting loot and just trying to get that God Roll spare rations drop in the Reckoning PVE activity. Which I did get, but of course I can't use it as much anymore, but more on that later on. Next would be moving on to the Black Armory content, or Season of the Forge, which there wasn't really anything bad about it, to be honest. I really enjoyed the weapons, the fact that random rolls were back, you can get, and I really enjoyed the Izanagi's Burden exotic quests. To be honest, it was pretty good. I kind of wish we did get more exotic quests like this right now, but again, we'll talk about that later on. I didn't spend too much time into the content of Black Armory, as it was currently Season of Opulence, which kind of drew my attention more. Also, apologies if I don't talk more about the Season of the Forge or Drifter, as I really wasn't drawn into them much while preparing for Shadowkeep. Next would be Season of Opulence, and this is kind of where I enjoyed Destiny 2 the most. I think it would probably be just because of the Menagerie PvE 6-player activity that was added, and the fact it was pretty much almost a perfect activity, just a perfect way just to get any loot you want, but there were still RNG mechanics to it, but honestly, we need RNG to, of course, give us the need to play it over and over again. But the thing I like about Destiny 2 during Year 2 was that there was always build up during unlocking certain activities, and all of them were pretty much worth it, such as, again, unlocking the Dreaming City, or just grabbing exotic weapons, such as the Izanagi's Burden. Shadowkeep soon arrives, and it's okay. During the state of the game, I didn't really know what to really expect, but I did keep my hopes up. I think it's mostly because I've only recently started taking Destiny 2 seriously, so I didn't really know any past history Bungie has had previously with the game. This would be the first expansion, but correct me if I'm wrong, that Bungie would release without the help of Activision after announcing their departure from them. I know some people in the community didn't like this expansion too much, mostly because many Destiny 1 assets were reused, such as some bosses and Return to the Moon. But again, I've been seeing only this, so I can't really 100% confirm of everyone's thoughts in the community. I think the issue for me of the story was I didn't know why everyone was so crazy about a trapped pyramid underneath the moon. Of course, in later seasons, I started to actually understand what it was about. And until this day, I'm still not a full lore nerd yet in the Destiny 2 universe. I felt like I got a basic understanding of the story, but I felt like there was more that could have been told that was missing. With Shadowkeep did come a new season of content with a new PvE activity in the Black Garden. The activity I think was pretty basic, but issue I had was the overall drops that I got from the activity were not the best, to be honest. I think roll-wise, many of the guns did have some pretty good basic perk combos that we don't see now and often. Again, the looks of the guns and the drops from the activity I didn't like, because the guns all were just, I heard they were just reskin guns from Destiny 1. That's not my issue. The issue I had with it was that all the guns were just covered in leaves, and putting a shader on it only made it worse, to be honest. That's kind of the one thing I didn't like about it personally. But, to be honest, not too bad of a start for a new year for Destiny 2. There would also be the release of the new dungeon, being Pit of Heresy, but I didn't spend my time really getting into too much because, like the raid, I didn't really know many people to really perform the dungeon with, and I was not brave enough yet to actually solo it yet. Next thing to talk about here is going to be the Garden of Salvation raid, which I did end up running later on. Unfortunately, I was not early enough to actually get the jacket. I wasn't really too impressed with getting like a real item after completing the raid, but also it was kind of time restricted. I believe within the first week of the raid you have to complete it by, so I didn't really stress myself over it too much. I did eventually do my first run, and unfortunately, it was probably the worst raid run I've ever had. Basically, it was me, a friend, and his friend. We joined up with a local streamer's fire team, which I thought would be pretty cool. But unfortunately, the Sherpa, which I had, which I will keep anonymous and not call out, and honestly, I've moved on, water under the bridge, all that stuff, was a, excuse my language, a pretty crap leader, unfortunately. The raid ended up lasting 7 hours long, and we didn't finish it. I think the main issue was our Sherpa wasn't the best at managing between being a raid leader and talking to his Twitch chat at the exact same time. Not saying there's nothing wrong with doing both at the same time, but at times he would just talk to his chat in the middle of explaining a mechanic or encounter, to which after I found like a lot of key points were missed that would have been pretty helpful, especially in the final boss fight. Pretty much every time I did something wrong, the Sherpa, or raid leader I guess, will basically just start swearing at me that I wasn't understanding what to do, especially for the last encounter. Basically, overall, he unfortunately didn't have much patience, and we all decided just to stop, since my friend's friend began to rant at our raid leader and just rage quit. Honestly, I really don't blame him. Afterwards, of course, after posting on Twitter about my long, unsuccessful run, ClassicQueen and EpicDan, be sure to check them out again by the way, came by to save the day, doing a run with me in 2 hours and 21 minutes. I really love them, by the way. So, of course, afterwards, I had to do it again, because I wasn't actually at the proper divinity step, so I had to do another 2-hour run, which, honestly, not too bad. It's perfectly fine, so. Got that, got my divinity, it was good. There's nothing I really hated about this raid specifically, besides the final encounter, which kind of scarred me ever since my first run, I guess. That's the one thing it kind of reminds me of. But at least for the final encounter, I really did enjoy the soundtrack that did come with it, because it's still stuck in my head till this very day. After Season of Undying, which soon came the next season being Season of Dawn, which I personally like a little bit more. I really like the overall seasonal story for this one, being you bring back Saint 14, which, like I said before, I didn't really know much about the character before, so I kind of spoiled myself a little bit. Didn't know the fact that he was technically gone. This season did come over with another 6-player PVE activity, which unfortunately, ever since the release of this video at least, that this would be the only and last 6-player event that we would get. I did like the fact that a system was implemented, allowing players to get drops that they wanted. Definitely made farming easier for the PvE event here, but of course not too easy. I was happy this seasonal event that actually included more mechanics rather than Season of Undying's crystal and platform activation mechanic, which it had previously. The season did come with a new community event or secret puzzle, which, to be honest, I didn't participate in too much, as unfortunately I began to enter a general burnout state. Not from Destiny 2, but just from gaming, which is normal. I personally didn't like the reward that did come with it, considering it was an upcoming exotic on the season pass that was going to be included, but honestly, it's better than nothing. Of course, with the final community event officially did announce back trials would be returning, but I wasn't overall too hyped for it, as I wasn't really there for Trials of the 9 or Trials of Osiris before on Destiny 1. But like raids, I knew it would be a struggle to try to find other people to play Trials with in the following season. Season of the Worthy soon arrives, and to be honest, I didn't really spend too much time playing in this season personally. Unfortunately, during this time, I was going through some normal burnout time in gaming, to which in the middle of the season, I kind of just dropped and just didn't really play much of the season anymore. The season story really wasn't as engaging for me personally, but of course, like anyone else, I did really enjoy the global event that we had in the tower for the first time, but Besides having to wait for an hour wait for something to happen, it was a pretty good overall global event. This season would introduce a new seasonal public event, but like I mentioned in my Warmind section of the video, because it is a public event, it's really hard to matchmake for this activity. Trying to find others to do the activity was already as difficult as it was, and as well as performing the actual event. I felt like the event, Bungie tried to make it easy to understand, but I think some of the community was pretty confused on what to do. I feel like, but again, that's just what I've been seeing. I remember my friend trying to grind an achievement or like a triumph for part of the public event, to which he had to look for an LFG group or looking for game group just to find people who actually knew how to actually do the event properly. This season, if I am trying to remember here, would introduce bunkers at each planet to which you have to clear out daily. And to be honest, I feel like this burned me out the most just because of having to do it daily. And the fact it was becoming a bit of a chore, leading to my for burnout within the season. This season did add in the new mods in regards to Warmind cells, but unfortunately during my burnout I didn't really get to try it too much until later after the season. Trials does come back this season, but unfortunately with a huge amount of issues. And that being, of course, a lot of cheaters, unfortunately, and because of that, I didn't really bother playing Trials. Of course, we've had people for some reason even cheating in the survival playlist for crying out loud, which, honestly, what are you doing? I did one attempt at Trials, which we didn't run into any cheaters, just with a separate friend, and then we LFG for the third man in our group. We didn't run into any cheaters, but we got absolutely destroyed, only winning 1 out of our 8 games, and then basically never touched it again. So, Season of Arrivals is the next being the final season in Destiny 2's year-free content. This one, I think, personally, would be the most enjoyable seasons of year-free, personally, at least for me. Of course, this season doesn't match up to the Season of Opulence, but it was definitely a bit more enjoyable, at least for me personally. For the public event this time around, it was definitely not too bad, and of course wasn't as difficult as the previous season. This season also came with the surprise of a new dungeon available for all Guardians and new players, with the theme of the 9 teasing us what was to come next in Beyond Light. This season came back with another great system for farming seasonal weapons and armor. I think another reason why I did like this season a lot was just the overall perfect build up to Beyond Light and with the darkness approaching and all that stuff. This season would be also where I would complete my first ever dungeon by myself, and about 4 attempts later I would also be able to complete my flawless run, which is having no devs.
Oh my god. Is it over? Please. Please, game.
And so the 9 have spoken. That's your
Yeah,
answer.
let's go, baby.
That's incomprehensible.
I mean, that's just your
Let's
opinion,
go.
man. No,
Oh
I
my
think
god.
this made sense.
Which part?
No way.
Well, we got paid, didn't we?
This season would end up lasting longer than usual, mostly due to the delay for the release of Beyond Light. But of course, with everyone having to work remote, it's completely understandable why the expansion did have to be delayed. This season did end with also another seasonal global event in the tower, or in the last city, which wasn't as big as seasonal worthy, but I'll take it as just a somewhat smooth transition to the Beyond Light expansion the very next. We soon have the current expansion of Beyond Light and Season of the Hunt, which I'm going to talk about a little bit, going to my personal opinions of Destiny 2 and its current state. I won't be diving too much into the Season of the Hunt here or Beyond Light, but just currently of the current state and my personal opinions. Okay, so now we're moving into my personal opinions for some certain topics here in regards to the current state of Destiny 2. If you did choose to skip to this part of the video, I completely understand. I don't blame you or anything, so no need to worry. With us moving forward here, I just want to bring it up here again just really quickly. If you're enjoying the game right now, that's great. I'm happy you're at least enjoying Destiny 2, especially during this time, which we always need something to at least boost our morales at the moment. If you disagree with my points here, completely fine as well. Just be respectful is all I ask. Apologies also if I do go too far into my rant personally, probably later on here, so just a quick heads up here. Okay, so first thing we're going to start off here is PVE, or people versus everyone. I can understand why most players currently do prefer PVE, mostly because it is more casual, which to be honest I kind of led towards over time. Raids themselves are already pretty good and a great experience. Just kind of sucks right now we can't replace some of them because they have been removed due to sunsetting, but we'll talk more about that later on. I'm perfectly fine with playing the same strikes over and over again, but the issue for me is that with so many strikes removed right now, I'm finding the playlist to be pretty bland right now. I pretty much burn myself out of strikes being I just play the free games for my powerful rewards and then that's it. I never touch strikes again for that entire week. The only time I go back to touching strikes again is during the weekly reset for the next powerfuls, and then that's kind of pretty much it. For Nightfalls, I say they're pretty good to be honest, especially with the implementation of Armor 2.0 in Shadowkeep. I love doing Nightfalls, especially during the double drop events as well, so I really think that they should still keep those up, but of course not as frequent as they are. So the next issue I see is in Grandmaster Nightfalls, and it doesn't seem like there's much replayability, because if you're comparing to the time you complete to the loot you get, it may not be worth it, but feel free to let me know of your thoughts in the comments below. So what I'm talking about, just for example, if you complete a Master Nightfall, or 2 Master Nightfalls, you could just complete 2 of them, and the time it takes you to complete 1 Grandmaster Nightfall, of course, not being as efficient in terms of loot. Grandmaster Nightfall seem to also be able to just be for the title, for the season, and to be honest, I personally have never been got around to doing it, because I don't think there's really many people who've been going for it. But once you do get the title, it doesn't seem like there's a reason to even go back to it, but except doing it again the next season, but then that's pretty much it. The only Grandmaster Nightfall I'd done was Lake of Shadows, but of course that was during the Double Drops event for that 1 weekly reset, so I knew it was pretty much worth my time and I took advantage of it as much as I could. For all those wondering as well, yes, I did run the Deepstone Crypt in Beyond Light, and I did enjoy it. I think I personally did enjoy it a little bit more than Garnet of Salvation. And of course, the raid itself just has a really good soundtrack and some good boss fights. Like any other raiders, I wish there was a hard mode / contest mode with the better extra loot, but we'll just have to see if that ever gets added. I did finish the raid in time, again thank you EpicDan, to actually buy the exclusive limited time jacket, so I can't wait to actually get that soon, but probably will be in 6 months. I will still be open to do other raids, but probably just slotting in for my friends from time to time. Okay, next up here we're going to be moving on to my favorite main part, what I like about Destiny 2, and that is going to be PvP. With everything going on, I completely understand why most would skip to this part of the video, but again, no worries. So I completely understand if you guys want to hear me out here. PvP, as I said before, was the main driving force that brought me to Destiny 2. I love its uniqueness in regards to how it was, the different weapons you can use, what you could farm for, the many quests that you can try to get, unlock using super sniping, just everything I just really enjoyed about it. The main issue I have with PvP at its current state is there's nothing really to grind for at the moment, really, come to think about it. Iron Manor has a few new drops, which were basically reskins as usual, which, to be honest, I'm starting to get a bit tired of at this point, personally, at least for me, but let me know your thoughts below. We had no refresh to the loot pool here for Iron Banner, and no system in place for farming certain weapons and armor. Feel free to correct me here again, but I believe in Shadowkeep there was at least some kind of refresh in weapons, but again, I could be wrong again. Basically, you complete the Iron Banner bounties same as usual, giving you tokens and pinnacle drops, which was pretty cool and everything. The problem is that every time you redeem your tokens and turn them in, you just have to pray you get the gun and roll you want, and it was pretty low chances of getting what you exactly wanted. Trials, I never bothered to try because, one, I can't really find friends really to actually willing to try to play Trials with me, and I don't have many friends who actually now play Destiny 2, unfortunately, so. This is not Bungie's fault, by the way, this is just simply me giving my current state and thoughts on the game, just for me. I know Bungie has been taking action also on many, popular sites for cheating and hacking, which, honestly, big props to them for at least showing action and showing that they care. But, of course, we still need some kind of better solution, I feel like. Fear of cheaters is basically what is stopping me from playing Trials at all. I haven't got a single Trial weapon drop, actually, as of right now, so. And the thing is, I just hate to go in with a trials card, go with a 5-win streak, and then next game I join with a cheater, which just ruins my card. Or the worst thing that can happen is just that I'm one game away from the lighthouse or my final game, and all of a sudden I run into a cheater. I can maybe suggest some kind of system to detect a cheater, to which if the game does detect it, it can automatically cancel the game due to suspicious activity. Then therefore, no one loses the game, no one feels their card, it's just you have to look for a new game, which I think would be pretty good. Next thing I want to bring up here really quick about PvP. There is right now zero reason to grind the survival playlist, except if you're really going for that Unbroken title, or you're going for the loot drops to reach the soft cap for that new season. For sunsetting, which I'm going to talk about, there's no weapons to even grind for in the survival playlist or like quests to go for, since the weapons that were there are now purchasable through the exotic kiosk you can get in the tower. I like getting weapons through steps and progression, like for example the quest system, which we had before. For me, giving weapons to buy off doesn't really give me that feeling that I actually worked hard on getting an awesome unique weapon. But again, my thoughts, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Like for example, I went to actually physically get the mountain top. I did not buy it from the kiosk and grinded that weapon like crazy, but at the end I just felt amazing that, hey, I got this rare weapon which no one gets and it's insanely overpowered. So alright, next we're moving into a bit of stasis here, at least from the PvP end. I didn't really say anything much for PvE because there's really nothing wrong with stasis on the PvE end. On PvP, it is a bit of a mess, I would like to say. I would like to say it's definitely a little bit more better than initial release, where the Warlock Stasis subclass was completely broken, to which I was fearing that Bungie would not patch it until the end of this current season. But I'm thankful they at least released some kind of patch and changes to the class, basically within 2 weeks, I think. The issue that I personally have with Stasis is the freezing mechanic, to which, one, you get frozen, which is annoying as it is, but two is when you break free of your stasis prison, you lose half your health, and you basically become an instant one-shot when anyone tries to shoot you. I believe you lose less health if you have a higher resilience from what I've heard, but again, feel free to correct me of how that works. If I had to change it, don't freeze, just slow people down, I guess, because at least there's a chance to fight back. Otherwise, I'm just frozen in third person trying to break out, and by that time, I'm probably dead. But anyways, that's just my personal opinion on stasis. Not much to really add, as to be honest, I don't really know what other issues or concerns really bring up for it, at least for me right now. But that's because I kind of got a bit burnt out and just didn't spend much time in PvP. Sorry again if I did go too over the top here in regards to PvP, as it's just something I just really want to enjoy again someday, and I hope Bungie does make some changes later within the year here. Okay, so next topic here is just going to be a bit about the current progression for power grinding. This is just going to be both affecting for PvE and PvP. Just want to quickly mention here, again, if you completely disagree with my next few points here, it's completely fine. This is just what's been going through my head, to be honest, ever since just trying to play Destiny. There's a reason why I went through a quick summary here of my personal experience, so you know what kind of player I am and how much time I've actually dedicated just to this game. Power grinding since I started playing Destiny 2 has generally been the same thing over and over again. It's cool to see all your power levels go up and everything, but overall, even like right now for me personally, it kind of almost means nothing. I'm not sure what everyone else kind of feels, but feel free again to let me know your thoughts. Reason for power grinding, at least at the time of this video, is playing Trials, Master, Grandmaster Nightfalls, Iron Banner, and that's pretty much it, as far as I know. But if I did miss one, please let me know. Trials loot this season has been the same, but different seasonal versions, basically. There's also the additional of adapted weapons for going flawless, but I haven't really heard much besides that in regards to it. Nightfalls are cool to do, or the Master ones, or Grandmaster if it is during double drops. Iron Banner was something I was really looking forward to with the implementation of a solo playlist finally for this year, but I didn't even bother to even play a single game. Reason being for me, there was almost nothing to really get. Now to mention it again, I know Bungie is trying their best with having to work remote and everything still, but I completely understand why they can't push out as much content as they can as of right now. Back to the topic of power grinding here, after reaching the soft power cap by just getting random world drops, I just never found purpose to really grinding powerfuls now. Other thing is grinding for powerfuls, you need to play Strikes, Gambit, and Crucible along with the raid and other activities. I find this to be a good and bad thing because what happens if a casual player just wants to play Strikes? What if you hate Gambit, such as myself? Just wanted to mention this. It can be good or bad to force players to these modes, but yeah, I don't like Gambit. I'm sorry, guys. The raid only requiring you to have reached a soft cap, which I didn't mind just so new players can just get into it and didn't have to wait too long or grind too far into powerfuls just to enter into it. Maybe have a hard mode as I discussed to increase the power level with a contest mode maybe. I know this might be sound like I'm just a bit complaining right now about simple power grinding, but doing it over a whole year, the same thing over and over again with bounty grinding, you kind of get a bit burnt out of it, but again, let me know of your thoughts in the comments below. Alright, so last topic I'm going to mention here, which I bet everyone's opinions are kind of mixed everywhere. It's just going to be in regards to sunsetting or the Destiny Content Vault, or the DCV as it's called. So for anyone who doesn't know what sunsetting is, at the release of Beyond Light expansion, Bungie decided to remove a handful of previous content from the game. Doing this has put them away in the Destiny Content Vault, or again called the DCV. This included strikes, maps for both Gambit, Crucible, planets, locations, quests, campaigns. Weapons are also sunsetted, to which they're not removed from the game but unable to be powered up for later seasons for endgame content. So endgame content being Trials, Grandmaster Nightfalls, Iron Banner. Anything that requires a power level, you can't level up it anymore. Of course, this would not affect Crucible, but does affect PVE every season. I thought this would make sense considering we're getting another big expansion and the game needed more space, because they're kind of limited in what you can fit into one game. In doing so, Bungie would remove old content that players don't really play anymore, which I completely understand. I was just hoping for new content that would be able to replace it, and looking back, I'll admit I think I had way too high expectations, especially during this time with everyone having to work remote, which, honestly, I don't blame. Safety is just always number one to always prioritize about. With the removal of strikes, the playlist for me has gone really bland with just no replayability. Like, a lot of times when I'm just playing my free strikes, as I said before, I'm not even paying attention, really. Like, I really don't. I'm just, like, listening to the podcast in, like, the background, for example. I know many have mentioned seeing a dedicated weapon drops per strike, which I wouldn't mind for a change, to go back to some Destiny 1 vibes. For Crucible, same thing applies with removal of some maps, but of course, opinions are mixed with which maps everyone loved or hated. Gambit, I was glad they did remove some maps and just put everything into one playlist. Funny, to come to think of it, the only thing I liked about sunsetting was personally just Gambit, because no one really liked the Gambit too much, but with some of the maps removed, it was a little bit more enjoyable, and only just one playlist, so. Weapons sunsetting, I do have some personal issues with this. I really don't like the fact, as per example, my God Roll Spare Rations, which I spent hours grinding, is basically useless, and I can't really use it. Now, I know I can use it in regular Crucible since the power level doesn't matter, but I want to practice with using current yearly weapons in case when I play Iron Banner or somehow Trials. I don't mind spending hours to grind certain other good weapons, but really, there's no activity or gun that's really up for grabs as of right now. Sunsetting weapons has led to no Crucible weapons, as I said in the survival playlist at the very least, causing lack of content and what to go for again. But even Trials is just having the issue where each year you need to regrind the same weapon for an updated version, and just hope you get that same juicy God roll that you had before. Not gonna talk too much about Trials, considering I barely played it, so I don't believe I have much of the saying into it. But for just the general loot pool we get per season of different weapons, I kind of expect new weapons to enter the game and not just simple reskins. If we get reskins of certain weapons, then what was the point of sunsetting the previous version of that weapon? But again, apologies for the rant here, but again, I really would love to hear everyone's thoughts in regards to sunsetting, if you agree, disagree, but I would just love to hear everyone's points here. Okay, one last thing I just wanted to mention here in regards to sunsetting is just kind of in regards to new players. The one thing I don't like what Bungie is doing at the moment is still charging new players to buy the Forsaken and Shadowkeep expansion for $35 Canadian. Issue being is that the new players are basically paying for sunsetted content, technically, and I bet many of them don't know what the hell that even means, so they're going to be grinding for weapon drops and find that their hours of works of weapons most likely will be found that they can't use in the current season and won't be as useful. Now, I still, till this day, don't fully understand power levels of old content and activities, so again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, as I'll admit, I'm not always right. If the DLC did cost about $15 Canadian or so, I think it's somewhat fair for the story, exotics, and raid experience, and included dungeons, but still, I think maybe these things should be free, in my personal opinion at least. Alright, apologies for the small rant there, my personal opinions for this video being super long as well, but just want to wrap up with just a couple points here. Everyone has their limit when they've had enough of a certain activity or hobby. In this case for me, it was Destiny 2. Would I recommend this game to everyone? Yes and no. It kind of depends of whom I'm really talking to, which probably I'll just ask the following questions here. Are you perfectly fine with grinding to which your loot may not be used in the future and you may have to regrind it again the next year, to which it might just be reskinned? How patient are you waiting for changes to the sandbox for PvP and PvE? Are you going to be mostly a solo player, playing with friends? Of course, if someone was interested in Destiny 2, I wouldn't mind just showing them the way, because there's a lot to learn from Destiny 2 that doesn't look like there's much, but it's a pretty big world in Destiny 2 what you can do. I'm not going to stop them or like any of my friends from playing Destiny 2, because I don't know why I would do that, to be honest. Everyone at the end of the day has their own different and similar goals and what they want to get out from Destiny 2. Make it as clear as well, this isn't a final goodbye for me for Destiny 2. I'll still come by just to check out new seasons and still reach my season pass to level 100. Just considering I already spent the full $80 for the deluxe edition, and yeah, I kind of regret buying the full deluxe edition, but unfortunately there's not much I can really do about it, but just get as much as I can out of it. Just want to point out again, with everything happening in the world, with Bungie's having to work from home, I don't expect miracles. I don't expect another Forsaken-like expansion to be released, because that's most likely not going to happen, personally, with everything going on. I want all of them to be safe, which is always a priority over everything else. We can hope things can somewhat stabilize when devs return back into the office, but again, I'm not putting my hopes super high like what I've learned in the past. I feel the main suggestion I can give for Destiny 2, personally, in my own opinion, is just sometimes less is more. It's great to see things added per season and everything, but if it's rushed and there's not much to offer, it doesn't seem like it's really going to matter in the long run. Like, look at Menagerie, we got that, but it was just great overall for everyone else. Just one example again, but just feel free to let me know your thoughts. I feel Destiny 2 right now is just trying to push more new players, which is good. To be honest, it's happy to see just a game grow of so many people in Guardians. But at the same time, they feel they also need to satisfy both new light and veteran players, which I can see is definitely hard to juggle. I really want Destiny 2 to get better, which it has, but I think I've waited long enough for certain changes. I do understand changes can't come out like in the next reset or maybe in next season, but I felt like I've waited long now and I've kind of reached my limit right now for Destiny 2. Thank you again for everyone who stuck around for the whole video, or at least came back to hear from my personal opinions. Let me know of your thoughts below, and I hope you guys have a great day. See you guys.